Hey there. Man, thank you so much for making Obi-Wan a part of your weekend. My name's Chris. I'm one of the pastors, and it's my privilege to share with you today. I wanted to share with you this past week, it was me and Robin's 20-year anniversary, baby. Let me get some shout-outs through the screen right now. No, you don't have to do that if you don't want to, but man, it's been such a privilege to go on this journey with her. Robin and I truly are best friends. It's my privilege to be her husband. I really, really do hope it's her privilege to be my wife. It's just been so cool. But I'll tell you, I'd be lying if I didn't say that we didn't have times where we were off along the way. There's been times where we've been off or had trouble communicating. I even remember before we were married, it was very hard at times. We were off, especially when we didn't agree on something. We didn't always fight fair. There was just a lot of trouble communicating. Obviously, we're a lot better, but we're still not perfect. I even remember a very dark season that we went through where we were just really off for a while. This is how off we were. Hopefully you know what I mean by this. We were so off that even when we tried to be on, even when we tried to communicate, even when we cared to connect with one another, we were still off. And let me tell you, that was a very scary season, but we got through that. Man, there's been times where I've been off with my kids. There's been times where I've been off with other family members. But now the question comes to you. Have you ever been there? Where you had trouble communicating with people in your family, whether it's your kids, your parents, your spouse, or any other family members, do you have trouble communicating? Where your connection isn't where you want it to be? Can I say, honestly, our homes would be a lot more blessed if we knew how to communicate. One of the reasons I believe families struggle, even good homes, it's because many struggle with communication. And so whether you've been off for a couple days or you've been off for a long, long time, is there anything that you can do to get back on track? And I'm here to tell you, thankfully there is. It won't be easy and it will take time, but it's your family and your family's so worth it. So for our remaining time together, I want to talk about some steps you can take to communicate effectively with your family. Can I say this? Even if your family unit is one, if you get these down, it can take you far with people in general. So please listen in and don't tune out, even if your family unit is one, because communicating effectively can help throughout all areas of your life. Listen in. You can follow along on the screen if you want. If you have your paper Bible in front of you or your cell phone in front of you, you can do it that way as well. But in James 1, it says this: "My dear brothers and sisters, pay attention to what I say. Everyone," notice he didn't give an out. He said everyone. That's probably why he said pay attention to what I say. Everyone should be quick to listen, but they should be slow to speak. They should be slow to get angry. This point comes directly from a quote from author Stephen Covey, but it's so good at describing the point. Here it is. If you're going to be someone that blesses your family through effective communication, number one, try to understand before I'm understood. Now let me ask a very obvious question. How many ears do you have? Now, how many of these do you have? It might sound silly, but how would your family dynamics be different if you used your ears twice as much as your mouth, truly listening to what someone is saying? I love this verse in Proverbs 18. Look at what it says. It says this: "Foolish people don't want to understand. They take delight in saying only what they think. Notice it doesn't say that it's wrong to say what you think, but they take delight in saying only what they think. This verse is so good because it's a reminder that if we're not careful, our default is to think about using this, not these. I love this quote by author Stephen Covey as well. He says this: most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. What if our intent was to truly listen, trying to understand before I'm understood? Okay, my intent isn't to reply. It's to understand. So when I'm silent, I'm not thinking of a reply. I'm thinking of how I can understand them better. Then, once I understand them, I'll do my best to respond and be understood. I kind of hinted at this towards the beginning. Do you know how many fights would have been avoided if I would have tried to understand before being understood? You've probably been there before where you're silent, but they're talking to you. But you're not trying to understand. You're thinking of your next reply. Oh yeah, you're saying this? Get ready. When you're done, I'm going to say this. Boom, right? Unknowingly, that can put up walls. Because in that instance, we are not trying to understand. We're just saying it with the intent of replying. Here's another thing we do unknowingly. We put up walls based off of our feelings, assumptions, and insecurities. Understanding someone helps us tear down those walls and not operate within our families based off of our feelings, our assumptions, and insecurities. Now, don't hear any of this wrong. Feelings are important, but they can be so tricky. The way you're feeling may not be the way someone else is feeling or even viewing the situation. Both Robin and I have made assumptions about each other, and we do that from time to time. And when we're wrong, man, I'm just being transparent with you, it can be very hurtful. It's like, really? You really think that about me? And we all know what assumptions do, right? Right? You do know what assumptions do, right? Good. I'm glad that you know it. Thank God that you know it. Now I don't need to say it in this message if you get my drift. Anyways, when you seek to understand, it can take down walls of assumption that all of us can make. Let me say this. It can be effective to listen with your ears and ask questions with your mouth. Questions done in the right way can disarm a situation and help you understand. Jesus was very good, even though he had all the knowledge, all the wisdom, even though Jesus has all the right answers. Jesus still asked questions. He still asks questions because questions done right can be so helpful. Pastor Julian mentioned a couple weeks ago that it's important to address the heart, not just the behavior. And man, that's so true. Listening and asking questions helps you have a better chance at discovering a heart and not just the behavior. And can I say this about insecurities? Insecurities are very real. And they're very important to God. He wants to speak into our insecurities and give us the confidence in areas where we lack it. And one of the reasons we need God to speak into our insecurities is because we can put up huge walls based on them. We assume that it's them, but we're the one putting up the wall. Trying to understand can help us take down our own walls of insecurities. Believe me, I've done it. I've done this before. I project something onto someone else, and then I discover, wow, that's not them. That's me. It's my insecurities coming out. Many relationships break down because of miscommunication. Listening can prevent miscommunication and help us understand each other better. You know, I wonder how many relationships would get back on track if people would just listen instead of either wanting to win or reply by saying only what they think, just like the Proverbs verse said. Because you see, the goal isn't winning. The goal isn't just to be heard. It's important to be heard. It's important to be understood, but that's not even the ultimate goal. One of the goals is mutual understanding. Oh, I understand you, and now you understand me. Let's move forward together. You want to bless your family by effectively communicating? Try to understand before you're understood. Another thing you can do to bless your family by effectively communicating is, number 2, is learn to speak their language. Let me describe it this way. If I wanted to connect with someone else in their language, I'd either have to learn their language or they'd have to learn mine. Our families are no different. And just because your whole family speaks the same language doesn't mean you're on the same page. It really takes humility to learn. People who are humble learn. People who are prideful already think they know it all. Listen into this verse from 1 Corinthians. Anyone who claims to know all the answers doesn't really know very much. I love that. I love the honesty of the Bible. Have you ever felt that way about someone else? It's like, you know what? You think you know it all. You think you have it all together, but you really don't. Now let me ask another question. Have you ever thought that way about yourself? I actually hope so. Not in the low self-esteem put-down way. The reason I hope so is because I hope that you'll be a lifelong learner. It really takes humility to realize I don't know everything, and I'm still learning how to communicate with people in my family. I want to recommend a book. Please know that it's also on audio, and everyone listening right now that hates reading is like, yes, I don't have to read it. I can listen to it on audio. You just breathe a deep sigh of relief right now. Anyways, it's called The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. It's an excellent book about speaking someone else's language so that you can connect deeper with them. Here are the 5 main languages. I'm just going to go over them for a little bit. Usually each person has one primary one, and sometimes a person can have a secondary one. But here they are. You might want to take some notes. The first one is words of affirmation. You're going to connect most deeply with, if they have this love language, you're going to connect most deeply with them through affirming them with your words. Hey, I'm proud of you. Hey, you look beautiful today. Hey, I believe in you. You can do this. Those are words of affirmation that will connect to people if they have that love language. The second love language is quality time. You're going to connect, if someone in your family has the quality time love language, you're going to connect most deeply with them by hanging out with them, by giving your time to them, by doing something with them. The next love language is physical touch. Now, I know Pastor Julian last week did an amazing job talking about sex, but that's not what it's talking about here. It's actually talking about non-sexual physical touch, where you give them a hug, or you hold their hand, or maybe you pat them on the back. They feel most love when there's that physical touch connection. The next one is acts of service, where someone feels most connected to you when you do something for them, when you lovingly serve them in some way, where you sacrifice for them in some way. That's when they're going to feel most connected. The fifth love language is when people receive gifts. They're going to, and it doesn't always have to be, if you're like, oh my gosh, that's someone in my family. It doesn't always have to be the biggest, baddest, most amazing, most expensive. It's more just saying, it can be that at times if you want it to and if you can afford it, of course, but really what it's saying is like, hey, I'm thinking of you right now. This is why I bought this gift. It can be a smaller gift at times as well. But here's my whole point. It's why we read the 1 Corinthians verse. It really does take humility and focus to talk to another person's language. And here's why. We usually speak in the language that speaks to us. The problem with that is if you're speaking in the language the other person has, it's either, if you're not speaking that language that they have, they're either not going to notice or they'll be appreciative, but it's not necessarily going to fill their love tank or speak to them the way you hope it will. So it's so important that we don't speak in the language we want to receive, but speak in the language that they have. So to communicate effectively, we need to speak in the language that best speaks to the person that you're trying to connect with. Just to give you a couple examples, and this could be any relationship, but for the sake of the example, say that my son's love language is words of affirmation and my love language is receiving gifts. It's not wrong to buy him gifts. He may even appreciate my buying him something, but he's going to be most connected with, he's going to feel most loved by me if I speak into his life. Hey, I'm proud of you. Hey, you can do this. Hey, I believe in you. You can do this. Again, this could be any relationship, but let's say my wife's love language is quality time and my love language is words of affirmation. It's not wrong to affirm her. She may even notice when I affirm her, but she's going to feel most connected to me, most loved by me when I give myself by giving my time to her, the sacrifice of time. Hey, do you want to hang out? Hey, is there anything that we can do together right now? You may not believe me, but I'm telling you, speaking another person's specific language really does help. It doesn't mean you can't use all five from time to time that on each relationship. That's probably healthiest. That said, families are often off, not because they don't love one another, it's because they don't know how to speak in the language that most speaks to the people they love. So I'd encourage you this week, try to discover your own as well as each family member's language so that you can connect with them on a deeper level. Also, ask each person in your family what they think yours is, and then either confirm them or tell them that it's something different. It could be a great dinner time conversation or a great family hangout conversation because you want to bless your family by effectively communicating. Learn to speak their language. Let's go back to the Bible to see what else it has to say about communication. In Proverbs 26, it says this: if you don't have wood, your fire goes out. That's pretty obvious, right? If you don't talk about others, arguing dies down. If you're going to be someone that blesses your family with effective communication, number 3 is talk to them, not about them. Let me say that again. Talk to them, not about them. Part of the stress and disconnect in families is when we talk about them instead of to them. But what does the Proverbs say? If you don't talk about others, meaning don't talk behind their back, that's not going to do anything. In fact, it's just going to keep the fire going in your heart, and if they find out, it's definitely going to keep the fire going in their heart. It doesn't help when spouses talk about spouses, when parents talk about their kids, when kids talk about their parents, when relatives talk about other relatives, and so on. Guys, don't let that happen. talk to them, not about them. If I need to talk to my sister, it does me no good to talk to my brother, to vent my frustrations about her. I need to go to my sister and talk to her. I need to speak to her. Now I get it. Everyone needs someone to talk to get help and perspective about how to handle a situation and how to handle family conflict. I get that. So let me share a few goals that can be helpful. One goal is that you want someone that can maintain a balanced perspective. Now, what do I mean by that? You want someone that can be supportive of you, but can kick you in the butt at the same time if you're the one that needs it. Another goal is to connect with someone to gain insight on how to reconcile, not to talk maliciously about them behind their back. The goal is not to look good or to look better or to even win. The goal is, like I said earlier, the goal is mutual understanding, and in these cases, the goal is reconciliation. Another goal is the person you confide in should be someone that will push you towards reconciliation and back to the person you're off with. You don't want to be talking to someone and you're trying to get advice and they're like, you know what? I really never liked your dad in the first place, so why even bother reconciling with him anymore? Or you know what? I never even liked your wife when we first met, and so, this is the end of it. You don't want that. You want someone that can be supportive of you, but also push you back to say, hey, I know this hurts, I know this is hard, but it's important that you talk to them, not about them, and they're pushing you back to that person because you want to bless your family by effectively communicating. Talk to them, not about them. Let's go back to the Bible one more time to see what we can learn about communicating so that we can be a blessing to our families. It says this in Proverbs 15, a tongue that calms is like a tree of life. Are you hearing that right now? But a tongue that tells lies produces a broken spirit. If you're going to be someone that blesses your family through effective communication, number 4, simply speak life. Speak life. You see what the proverb is saying? Your words can bring life, or they can also bring brokenness. Now, nobody's going to be perfect. Everybody's going to struggle from time to time. But we've got to know that if we're not careful, we can bring burdens to other people in our family because of our words. We never know if someone else is either feeling defeated or even struggling with their worth because of our careless or angry words. You may have noticed that I have 2 bottles of water here. It's not because I'm overly thirsty. I am a little thirsty right now because I've been speaking to you. But you have this water here, and isn't water just so amazing? It can be so refreshing when we're hot and we need to cool down. Water can be so refreshing. Hot water can soothe our throat if it's hurting or if we've spoken too much. Water is just so good, but we want to drink water that's drinkable, right? We want to drink water that's as pure as possible. Over here, I don't know if you can see this right now. Hopefully you can. But over here, there's a little bit of dirt in here that I put in here. There's a little bit of sticks in here. There's a few things that I put here just that was on the church floor randomly. But hey, I'll tell you, do you want to drink this? Most of this is still water. Most of this is still bottled water. I bet none of you are not wanting to jump out of the screen right now saying, yes, I will drink this water, PK. Give it to me right now. Even if we had to survive Maybe if we had to survive, we'd drink water like this. But even if you had to, this would probably be hard to drink, even though most of it is still bottled water. Now that there's just a little bit of yuck in there through sticks and through dirt and through other little things on the floor, I don't think we'd drink it. And this is just a little bit. This is good water that's just mixed with a little bit of yuck. And while we never drink this water with just a little bit of yuck, if we're not careful, we can pass on lots and lots of yuck to our family, to their spirits, or even to others through our words. The simple truth is, your words matter. Parents, your words matter to your kids. Spouse, your words matter to your spouse. Kids, your words matter to your parents. It matters how you talk to people in your family. Words are so important. Listen to the psalmist. He says this in Psalm 141, Lord, guard my mouth. Keep watch over the door of my lips. It's so important to take inventory and ask ourselves, how often are our words careless or said in anger, or how often do they bring damage? And if we're seeing that it's often, or even a little bit here and there, that's when we go to God and say, God, guard and keep watch over my mouth. Now, what we don't say is important. We don't want to spew out careless, angry, empty words, but it's also important what we are saying. Speaking life into our family matters. Now, speaking life doesn't mean that you can't be real or even speak a hard word. That said, if speaking life is the goal, the way you stay real or share that hard word is going to look a lot different than if you're just spouting things off carelessly or in anger. And can I say, if you struggle with speaking life, there's no shame in this moment. That's not the goal. Just go before God. Say you're sorry. Go before others if you need to. Someone in your family, say you're sorry. And then ask God to help you speak life into your relationships. Ask Him to change your heart. Ask Him to change your perspective. Ask Him to help you see your family members in different ways if that's what you need. If there's anyone that knows how to speak life, it's God. If you have someone in your life that you trust, that you feel is positive and encouraging, ask them for some pointers on speaking life into others. Because here's the thing. Many don't look at themselves confidently. Even the most confident usually have things that they don't like about themselves or feel insecure about. So you never know how you speaking life into others can literally change their lives and even change your family dynamic. Before I'm done with this point, can I say that it even matters how you talk to yourself? Some of you may not struggle with speaking life into your family, but you struggle with your own self-talk. You've got to speak life into yourself, asking God to help you see yourself in a positive way, asking God to reveal to you how He sees you and views you. And if you're someone that struggles with your own self-talk, or you struggle because of the negativity of others, can I encourage you to let God speak life into you? This is one of the reasons it's so important to get the Bible into you consistently. It helps replace the negative voices with God's voice. You want to bless your family by effectively communicating? Speak life. Before we start to close, let me ask a few questions. How would your relationships be different if you tried to understand before being understood? Would your relationships thrive if you learn to speak their language? Would your fights be less destructive and maybe even be over quicker if you talked to them, not about them? How would your family dynamic look if you spoke life into them? It will take time and it will take some hard work, but you can bring blessing to your home by communicating effectively with your family. Let's pray. God, we thank you so much for who you are and just all the things that you do for us. And I pray for each person that's watching right now. Would you encourage them to take a step towards someone in their family? Show them out of the things we talked about today, or even something that wasn't talked about today, show them a step that they can take to effectively communicate and bring blessing to their family or to someone in their family or to some relationship that they have. If there's anybody that knows how to speak life, God, it's you. If there's anyone that knows how to effectively communicate, it's you. So would you encourage them today? If they've been off for a couple days, or even if they've been off for a long time, would you encourage them today to take steps towards effective communication? Give them ideas. Speak to their heart. Show them God. Show them. Reveal yourself to them. There might be a couple of you that want to take your prayer a step further and you're just like, you know what, God, this is what I want to communicate to you. I've never done this before. I've never communicated this to you before, God. But today, I want Jesus. I want you to be forgiver and leader of my life. I ask you to forgive me for the wrongs that I've done. I thank you for going to the cross. I thank you for coming back to life. I thank you for doing it. I just wanted to communicate that to you today, Jesus, because I've never done that before, and I'm asking you today for a relationship. Thank you, Jesus, that you say yes to those prayers all the time. Lord, for all my friends watching, would you please encourage them? I know what it's like personally to be off in relationships, and it can be discouraging. So would you start with encouragement? Show them that while it could take some time, while it could take some hard work, that effective communication is possible. Getting back on track with their family members is possible. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you for showing us the way. We love you and we pray these things in your name. Amen. Man, I really do hope this message is encouraging or was encouraging to you. This message did conclude our family series, Bless This Home. And man, even if there's one thing that you got out of this whole family series, we really do hope that it helps bring blessing to your home and bring blessing to your family. Here's a sneak peek at our summer series that we're starting next Sunday.